Hello everybody, welcome to Dynamic GT League's Admins Update.
Just updating the admins and...
Yeah, we're getting rid of these three and we need... no. Okay, so, obviously there's myself, not badmin. We've got SGP, SRI, Steve F1, otherwise known as Brands X Ballbag. And okay, right, yeah, we're here to give some information. You have to excuse how I look, it's just the way I am. First of all, Tomahawk. There's been a recent change to the settings on the Tomahawk. Steve F1, would you like to explain why?
Yes, so basically we've decided to cut the power on the Tomahawk. Was it to 4.9, sort of BHP, I can't remember the exact number, but we just felt that it probably gives a wider range of drivers in the league a chance to shine in the car, because obviously the more power, more tricky it is to handle, potential for more incidents. We just thought the car still is a great challenge, even on the lower power setting, but we're hoping we'll have less incidents and more people will enjoy driving it as a result.
Yeah. Anything you'd add to that, Ray?
No, you said it all.
Yep. SGP?
Yeah, Steve F1 couldn't handle the power.
Yeah. But I mean, to be fair, I mean the car is very nice to drive on the higher power. It was only from driving the Toyota 030 Group 1 car on a very reduced power that we all seemed to like. This is a really nice car to drive at this power. That made me think about reducing the Tomahawk to see what it was like. But to be fair, it was very nice. But also because of the recent pit stop time changes, which if people are not aware of, it used to take about 6 seconds pit stop loss for tyres only. Now you're looking at about 25 seconds. So having a slightly slower car, I think it just worked better. Okay. What are you throwing at your missus, Raymond?
A screw.
Throwing at a screw, bloody hell. Okay, so right, the next big announcement, this is like the first of the big announcements for today, is the points. That it's been decided that the way the points will be scored is going to be differently. But that's not really a sentence, that. What I mean to say is the amount of points scored is changing. So if I show on screen now what the current points system is, which is the old points, and then what the new points system is, it's very simple really. At the moment we score 1st to 15th score points, going 20, 17, 15, 13, 11, 10, all the way down to 15th place who scores 1 point. We decided to change that, and it'll be from the grit onwards, so from the Tomahawk onwards, where points will be scored all the way down to 16th place. And the change comes from around position 4. Instead of it going 13, 11, 10, it's going to go 13, 12, 11, 10, and that'll mean last place will be able to score a point. Not a massive change, but at least everybody, if they get to the end of the race, is going to score a point. Anything anyone wants to add on that one?
No.
Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's the points. That'll be coming into effect from the grid. Obviously, we are here for another announcement though, which I think it's fair to say is what car is going to be used in the championship after the grid. So what's coming after the Tomahawk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a little video here for our viewers, and then we will come back to have a chat. It's only going to take a few moments, so enjoy. We'll be back in a moment. And we're back. So I told you it wasn't a very long video, but yeah, what is that is the Dynamic Grand Touring Car Championship, which is going to be after the Tomahawk. Sounds dead simple really, but to be honest, this is a championship that has been in the making since about September, if I remember rightly.
Maybe before, but yeah.
Yeah,
Possibly.
because we were going to put it in before the Porsche, I think, and the Tomahawk. Okay, so I suppose really we should perhaps show people what car is going to be available. So here we go. That picture was meant to fill the whole screen. That was really good, Dave, that was. Okay, so on the screen you'll be able to see there is, it's messing about for me, sorry, yeah, you'll be able to see that there is 5 cars on the screen. But the main thing to take note from this particular screen is that the settings there
Fluffy's Airlines.
yeah, Fluffy's Airlines. Yeah, the main thing to sort of see from that is that there are 5 cars. However, the drivers are only going to be able to pick a car from 4 of them. The main thing on there is the settings restrictions, where when it comes to the lobby, the maximum power is going to be 450 brake horse, and the minimum weight is going to be 1,365 kilos. Now, SGP, would you like to explain for us what the Maserati is all about?
Well, it's interesting that you've got it there in a gold colour.
I've changed the picture now, but yeah.
You had it in a gold colour.
It's still in a gold colour, it's just a picture of the Maserati.
The Maserati is known as the champion's car. So anybody that has won a championship in DGTCC in DGT League will be able to use the DGTCC Maserati.
Hang on,
And
not will be able to, has to.
has to.
Any champion
Yes.
has to.
Has to. So basically is Bernard, Steve F1, SGP and Mitch. Was discussions though on whether it should be open to offers on the Brown Dirty Championship. What was the thoughts on that?
I believe we came to the conclusion that the Dirty Champion can have the choice of the Maserati if they want to, but they don't have to use it because they're a Dirty Champ, not a real champ. Isn't that right, SRI?
Aye, just rub it in. Just rub it in.
So basically this Maserati is the champion's car because it will be the heaviest out of all of the cars. Its weight, the minimum weight you can get this car down to is 1424, so that's quite a long way off than what the lobby settings are. So that's why this is the champion's car. It will be the heaviest car.
So the power is at 448, but the weight is at 1424, when the lobby's minimum weight is 1365. Okay, so basically it's a way of having a weight penalty for the champions and a way of policing it as well, because that car cannot get any lighter.
Correct.
Okay, right then, Steve F1, would you like to try and explain about some of the other cars, for example the Aston Martin?
Well, I think the other cars, it's just an interesting bit. They're all handled slightly differently. They've got slightly different strengths and weaknesses, and they're open for any other drivers. Like all the drivers that haven't won a DGT championship have got the pick of any of those 4 cars. So everyone could have the same one. All the other drivers could have the Aston Martin, for example. It's not like in the Ford Cup where there was 4 drivers that had 1 car and 1 for another. All those other cars are open for the other drivers to pick, and then that'll be your car for the season. and obviously they are going to be lighter than the Maserati. They've all got their different strengths and weaknesses, so you, as a driver, you've got the chance to go and test those cars and see which one you prefer.
Okay, SRI. What about which car are you going to pick then? I'm just going to sort of change the pictures on the screen a little bit at the moment. I'm showing the Corvette, which the power of the Corvette is 449 brake horse, but the weight is 1365, nearly 100 kilos lighter than the Maserati. So what are you going to pick?
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you. There is a couple of cars that I've tried while we were testing and seeing how they handled, and I liked them, but then I did bring the point across if the Dirty Champ should go on the Maserati as well. So, I don't know, I might leave it up to the drivers of the league and see what they want me to do. Do they want me to go on the Maserati or just pick another car?
Personally, I don't think you should be made to go in the Maserati. But
that's all for fun. I'm not as serious as you three that won a fucking championship. I'll do the dirty one.
You wish your star was golden. I'm just sort of going through the pictures here so the drivers can see on the screen as well. The Dodge Viper, power on that.
The Viper's a nice car. I quite enjoyed that when that was like my first kind of choice, and then I can't remember what was another one I went in, and it was quite nice. But they all have different strengths and weaknesses. So
okay, Gary, just want to check how bad is the echo, because I checked with these guys if there was an echo, and they said there wasn't one. But yeah, apparently Gary's got an echo. Either that or his man cave is bigger than he realised. What I was going to say, yeah, with the Dodge Viper, I know we were driving a few cars last night, a few race cars, and David Hart was driving a Dodge Viper, and he was going on about how nice it is to drive. Well, this Dodge Viper is just as nice to drive as that one. There are... Alright, okay, so apparently the echo is bad on everybody apart from me. Alright, okay, well that's fine, we'll just shut the rest of them up. Really bad, okay. Right, I'll try and... I'll tell you what, give me a second and we'll make a little change. I would say talk between yourselves, but you're making a really bad echo, so hang on a minute.
It's not bad, it's just us that's echoing.
yeah,
These camera's frozen as well, right? And yours.
Yeah, I've got the things whizzing around.
Oh.
Okay. No.
Right, just give us a second.
saying it's on me.
Yeah,
Quite basic
basically
graphics.
the echo is going to be, it's getting picked up by my stuff.
Dave, have you forgot to switch the vibrator off?
No, I don't have
That's just the
one.
one in Gary's. It's the one in Gary's house.
So I tried doing this without having to wear a headset, but it's... yeah, I know, but the cameras aren't showing anyway, so that doesn't really matter. Right, okay. For anyone listening, how is that now? Make sure that you can hear us. Okay.
It'd be helpful if we spoke and then they'd be able to say how it was, whether it was echoey or not, but yeah.
Yeah, Gary's saying it's shit. No, that's just your driving, Gary. Joking. Right, yeah, let us know if the audio is okay. Same race, fine, that's better. Okay, Right, as long as you can hear us okay. So try and recap a little bit in case anybody couldn't really hear what was going on there. I will show the main picture of the cars again. So the DGT-CC, it's going to work very simply, really, in that there's 5 cars available. One of them, the Maserati, is for the champions only. They have no choice, that's the car they're going to be using. The lobby settings are going to be set to 450 brake horse maximum and a minimum weight of 1365 kilos. Each of the cars can get to a slightly different brake horsepower level and a different weight level. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that the Jaguar, which is a little heavier than a couple of the other cars, is slower. So do not just look at these and go, oh, I like the look of that one, I'll go with that one, because once you've picked a car, that's the car you're going to be having for the season. So we don't want anybody going, oh, well, my car wasn't as good as your car.
Is there? I don't think there is. That was one point we never went over last night. I forgot.
Just going to mention though, before Ray comes in on that, can we just put the Jag picture back up, Dave? I don't think that's either not been up. Ah, right, that'll be why then. Okay, sorry, go on.
Hey, Dave, anyway.
No, there's not. So, but once you pick that car, that's that car for that season. So, if we end up with 12 Vipers and 4 Maseratis, then so be it. So.
I can hear you. Oh, all right. Well, while Dave's trying to sort out his microphone, everyone, this is the Jag. It's a little bit heavier than some of the others, but not as heavy as the Maserati. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's slow, because it is a very nice car to drive. It also depends on whether it suits your driving style. So what was being said a moment ago was that these cars are all very different, drive a little bit different. They might suit certain driving styles. So don't just look at it and go, oh, it's a Jag, I want that one. Because it might not suit you the way you drive, another one might. And then we don't want halfway through a season going, that Jag's OP. And actually, you could have picked it if you'd have test drove it. So there you go. So some interesting cars, but I want to quickly touch on the Maserati a bit more. Steve F1, because obviously you're a champ as well. What's your thoughts on the Maserati being heavier than the others and going into a season with a heavier car?
It's a bit like, well, it's obviously called DGT-CC, which is a bit like BTC-CC, where they have weight penalties. And it is something we've discussed, isn't it, before, about having penalties for the more weight penalties for the more successful drivers. So this is a way of doing it, and it's still, we've driven it, we've tried it. It's still a nice car, so it's not like it's a car where we've got no hope. But it's that weight penalty is going to it's going to give other people a chance to challenge the champions, basically. So it's for the champions. It's still, we can still have a good chance of winning races and being competitive, but it just brings the others closer together potentially.
So we could potentially, instead of seeing like the front runners go off and then the pack, it could all be one pack.
Yeah, exactly. Potentially.
Potentially.
Obviously, you can't tell how it's going to shake out, but that's probably the intention, isn't it? Of the way we've done it.
It's more likely to happen. I suppose that's the way of looking at it. When
Gary,
these
we'll get a picture of the Maserati up in a minute once Demonars fix these technical issues.
Yeah. See, everyone blames us, but never Demonar. Anyway. Right, what was I going to say? Oh, yes. So for people that wanting to test these cars, going to confirm now that the first race is going to be at the DGT side. So all you need to do is put your lobby settings to maximum brake horse of 450, minimum weight of 30. These cars with racing super soft tyres on. Fuel fuel is switched off and tyre wear is switched off as well. They are probably going to be a new champion. Something else we can talk about in a minute, actually. But yeah, because we're doing it like that, and the first race is going to be at DGTC side, it gives the opportunity from now until the start of that season for people to test all of the cars thoroughly until actually the admins say, right, we need your choice of car. There's the Maserati. Don't worry if you can't hear Dave. He's not started talking yet. Or he has, and we can't hear him.
Can't hear him or see him.
No, but right, Steve. What's the thought process on not having tyre and fuel? Can you remember?
What can we say and what can we not say? I don't know. Well, I think we've had a season this season, haven't we, in the Porsche with no pit stops. So I think the idea is again to have a season with no pit stops. But I think the main reason we've gone for that in this championship is to make sure that there are no, because different cars have different characteristics. Some are hard on the tyres, some are more aggressive on fuel, and this is a way of just removing all that. So for the drivers that are going to pick one of those 4 cars, you don't have to consider that as a factor. You can just get in, drive the car, see which one you like. You don't have to think about, is this one going to be better because it's better on tyres or better on fuel. You just get in and drive it. So I think that was the main reason, wasn't it? That just remove any other factors, and it's just about racing the car that you really like and think you'll have the best chance in.
Yep. So then, Ray, I can see you staring into thin air over there. Obviously, they can't. But shall we give the listeners here a bit of a bit of an idea of what the format might be for not for next season, but for the DGTCC.
I was about to say, we've got the format. Good though.
Even I was saying, don't give away the format.
Is that what he's saying?
Speak up.
I just got a message saying, right, don't do that. I presume it means don't tell them the format.
Don't tell them the format. Okay. All right. I know why as well. I know why. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll ask you a different question then, Ray.
What?
How big is your ego when it comes to?
Not as big as yours, because your head can't fit through the fucking door.
Yeah. I'm hoping that Demon R is a bit close to sorting himself out, but if not, it'd be useful if you could scroll onto another car. Probably back to the Aston Martin, because we're not seeing that for a while. So Maserati 1442 weight, and I don't actually know which one is the lightest of them all of them, but the Aston Martin I know is not the heavier of the other 4, but very different cars. I'm struggling until Demon R comes back. So Ray, what you got to say?
What am I going to say? Nothing. I think we are going to have a lobby after this. I don't know. I've just turned my PS4 on, so I've got an update to do.
You just remembered.
Is there an update today?
Yeah.
Yep. So we might get a lobby. Might get a couple of the cars out for people to drive or go in a Tomahawk, or depends what Big Heat over there wants to do for lobby settings.
I don't mind.
Demon R, your mic's not getting picked up. Go into the settings.
He said he's going to leave Discord, so I don't know what that's going to do for the stream.
If the stream ends, we'll be back shortly.
Yeah.
Right, I think people might be able to hear me again now. Hang on a moment, folks, because I fucking hate technology. Right, can you hear me now? Don't take the piss.
Yeah,
I'm not in the
if he's
mood.
talking, he may have to go back into the settings like you had to, Steve.
If you're taking the piss, don't. I'm not in the mood.
But not in Discord.
Oh, that's it. That is in Discord. You're a bit echo, a bit low volume. We're on different. I think you might be on a different microphone. That's why.
I hear him on Discord, but on the live stream, you can hear him.
Kind of choice and
Right, can you hear me now?
Still echoey.
when I went in and it was quite.
Hello?
Hello.
Echo.
Right, I'm at the point of kicking shit out of my computer because this is bullshit. So I'm going to end the stream and sort stuff out, and I'm either going to set everything on fire or we'll be back in a moment.
Okay.
All right.
Thankfully, I saw your message.
Well, now we're live, so I was fucking screaming, no! Don't
No.
fucking do that, no! Right. Gary said, chill, Dave. You what, Gary? You in what? I'll just say 3 days I've spent getting ready for this, having everything prepared for it to go wrong, because you got an echo. Right. Where were we? We were talking
We're
cars.
saying, Dave, you've got an echo.
Yeah, fuck off. It's fucking driving me to drink, you bastards are. Right, I apologise for my language, but yeah, it really pissed me off that it. I was that prepared. Right, okay, so the DGTCC, the drivers are going to be able to pick whichever car they want of the four. Right, the Maserati, you can't have that. Even if you want it and you like it, you can't have it. You got an Aston Martin you can pick from, a Dodge Viper, a Jag, or a Corvette. All of them are brilliant cars. They all handle slightly differently, and as I said, don't be put off by the fact that the Jag is a touch heavier. It's got a different power delivery. So, someone mentioned something about format. Are we ready to get into the format yet, or do we need to have a proper go over the cars again so I can just get it out of my system? So I'm going to do it because it'll help me calm. Right, the Maserati Champions car. We know that, heaviest, decent weight. I heard you guys talking about obviously the Champions using this car. What I would like to try and explain to people is that even though this car is heavy, that doesn't mean we're not still going to be fighting at the front. But what might happen is that we can't run away from the front because the car's just too heavy to do that. Let's see. the Corvette is a lovely handling car. Power 449, weight 1365. It does handle very differently because of a different gear ratio. The Dodge Viper, that's the car I would pick personally, if I had a choice. 448 brake horse, 1365 on the weight. Let's see, then we've got a Jag. The Jag, 449 brake horse, 1402 on the weight. So it is a little heavier than the Corvette and the Dodge, but it's got a very different gear ratio, which brings it back into play. And then the Aston Martin, which we know is a brilliant car, 447 brake horse, 1368 on the weight. Now, all of the cars are front engine rear wheel drive. SGP, you were talking fuel and tyre wear. You've obviously let everybody know that there's kind of going to be no tyre wear and fuel. I've put you all back on camera now, except for me. So yeah, do you want to tell them about that just to reconfirm it?
Yeah, Steve F1 mentioned it earlier, but I'll just reconfirm it. And that is that obviously if we had fuel on and tyre wear on, it would be very different for each of the cars that have their own characteristics with it. So with turning them all off, it just helps everyone stay a little bit more on a level playing field. So that's the main reason for it. So yeah.
Right, SRI, is there anything that you wanted to mention before we have a look at the format style?
No.
Okay then, do you want to explain the format?
No.
Well, I'm showing it as a picture on screen at the moment, which I would recommend for people watching this. Take a screenshot of this, guys, because it may seem like a hell of a lot of information. It isn't really, but if you take a screenshot of it, you've got the information. The way this is going to work in the DGTCC is that there's going to be 9 events, so just like we have at the moment, 9 Thursdays, but at each event, there's going to be 2 races, except for the first one. At the first event, there's going to be a 10-minute qualifying session, which will set the grid for a 25-minute feature race. For that 10-minute qualifying session, drivers will score points for whatever position they finish in. So they finish on pole, they get 16 points, second 15 points, all the way down to last 1 point. That qualifying session will set the grid for the feature race, which will be 25 minutes in length, and the points scored there will be the new points scoring system that we showed earlier, so all the way from 1st to 16th. From event 2, though, that's where things are going to change a little bit, because that's where we're going to introduce sprint races. So I've sort of on the screen called it Sprint Race 2. It'll be a 10-minute sprint race, but the sprint races, the grids will be set by the previous feature race result, and then a top 8 reverse grid order will be applied. And the sprint races, points will be scored, 16 points for first, reducing by 1 point for each position. So, SRI, would you like to explain in more detail the top 8 reverse grid thingamajig?
Well, to mix it up a wee bit at the front, and with it only being the 8 instead of 10, it was just to try and keep a decent balance of how many drivers were changing over, swapping around, so there wasn't too much concern of a driver getting up front and then there's big collisions happening because they're not used to being up front as much, and potentially ruin people's races. Yeah, I'm sure from I'd say 6th to 8th is going to be a constant switch around because every race it always change whoever's 6th, 7th and 8th, sometimes 5th as well. Yeah. So it'd be interesting.
Would it be fair to say that, okay, you mentioned about not doing the top 10. would it be fair to say that one reason for not doing a full reversal of the grid order, I'll open this up to the three, a full reverse grid order, is because in a way you wouldn't want people thinking, well, if I drop all the way to the back, I get to start on pole position at the next race.
Yeah, there was that. Sorry, yeah, there was that as well. That we don't want people dropping down. We still want them fighting for positions to get at the as far up in the standings as possible, and it would save people trying to like fight for a lower position. Like say, on you go. And then we'll have this issue of the last lap, last corner, everybody slows down, and then it's like a wee snail's race to the line, see who can get over last. So
Exactly.
we want to stop that.
Yeah,
it's going to add an incentive for those in the pack, isn't it? Because they tend to be fighting for around 7th or 8th place at the end of races. So there's going to be that real incentive in the feature if you can finish 8th and pole for the next race in the next sprint.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. The sprint race results will set the grid for the feature race. So the feature races, the grid is going to be set from the sprint race results. So if in the feature race you're in that mix of sort of 8th, 7th, 6th, you could be in for a really good potential battle for that pole position in the sprint race. But then if you then get a decent result in the sprint race, it gives you a better starting position in the feature race. So it's kind of set up to try and help people keep going in a way. I'm trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to mention on there. Yeah, all of the points scored in the sprint races and the feature races, all of those points will be added towards the Drivers' Championship totals. If SGP hasn't mentioned anything to Rich yet, don't panic. You'd not mentioned anything to him, right? Yeah, don't panic, Rich. I have a plan. Right, SGP, is there anything else that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, if any drivers turn up late and miss the qualifying or the sprint race, they'll be able to join in the feature race. But I think it would only be right if they are late for the first one, they start the feature race from the back of the grid.
Yep. Is there a reason that you've done sprint race first and feature race second? I'm asking the question because I know the answer. But...
Probably, I can't remember.
Well, right. The answer is by having the feature race second. That's the race everybody wants to be involved in.
Yep.
So if you had the feature race first, and then the sprint race, people may get disheartened in the feature race. Okay, if any of the drivers have any questions about the prospect of the DGTCC, feel free to ask. Is anything going to be changed on those settings at the moment? No, the tracks haven't been confirmed, but SGP did mention that Seaside will be the first race. So if people want to test the cars, they can. I do believe that we're going to be going online once we've finished here, which would have been 22 minutes ago, to go on to test a few cars. Go on.
I'm still doing my update.
All right.
Just want to confirm something that we've not actually mentioned yet, and that is the sprint race and feature race will both take place at the same circuit.
Yes.
So as an example, the first race is at DGT Seaside, so it'll be qualifying at DGT Seaside, and then the feature race is at DGT Seaside. Race 2 is an example. I'm not saying this is where we're going, but if it was Brands Hatch, you'd have the sprint race at Brands Hatch and then the feature race at Brands Hatch.
Yeah.
So you're doing one and then the other. So you don't have to worry about being ready to drive at 2 tracks each week. And the gap between the races will be about what we've done before with the What the Ford, probably about a 10-minute break once they've finished. Just enough time, I think, for the admins to take note of what the finishing order was and prepare the lobby for the future race. And so if anyone's finished the race and needs to run for a quick wee, they should have time, unless the name's Gary or Fluffy.
Yeah. Well, we get to hear them anyway. I mean, one thing that I would say as well is that, in a way, I would hope that people wouldn't look at a sprint race and think, go for it, chaos. It's rather more of a, what'll happen is going to happen, but we've got to make sure we keep it calm and fun and friendly. And if someone doesn't have the best of races in the sprint race, don't panic. There's another one coming up in a moment. Something else that we've been doing recently as well at the end of the sort of races on a Thursday, doing a bit of Destruction Derby. That's something that may continue. I think someone actually mentioned the other day, why don't we have a break mid-season for a Destruction Derby race? And it's like said, well, we've been doing that at the end of every race recently. So, excuse me, if anyone's got any pent-up aggression, they can get rid of it in that way. Right, I'm trying to think if there was anything else at all that I needed to mention. My mind is completely fried after those technical issues.
Not surprised.
So yeah, I don't really know what else to tyres. What tyres are the cars using?
Racing Super Softs.
Okay, so it's Racing Super Softs then. So to be fair, it kind of works out then for the cars that they are pretty much at their minimum weight at a decent power on very good tyres, and we're just going to go for it. And what I will say is, guys, don't be afraid of trying these cars because they are really, really good fun. Actually, I do want to put a question to you because I'm pretty sure some of the drivers or some people may question it. Why are we using the road car versions and not race car versions?
Well, I can answer that. Race car versions, you tend to find that when you put a weight limit on, like we have done, or a minimum weight, all of the race cars can get down to exactly the same weight. So it'd be difficult to police who is at what weight and what have you. So here, the Maserati will only go down to that weight. You can't get it any lighter. So we haven't got to rely on the champions, their trust to keep it at that weight. It can't go any lighter. So with the road cars, that car can't go any lighter than that. So like the Jag, it will only go down to that weight.
Yeah.
And so with all of the cars, they will all only go down to those weights, those minimum weights.
Yeah.
And that's why it works so well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was a lot of testing done with the cars, and I say it's something that's been worked on since sort of September time easily. So the race cars were looked at, the Group 3 road cars were looked at, and to be fair, this is a selection that we felt all handle very nicely, all sort of have their own little quirks and characteristics. I don't think anybody will struggle to drive any one of these cars either. I kind of do feel that with these cars, it could be a bit more of a you can turn up and drive. As long as you've picked the car that suits you, you can turn up and drive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
We'll be opening a lobby this evening, and at some point I will have the lobby settings set for people to come and have a little drive in these, as well as the Tomahawk for the upcoming championship. So we can have a look at both of them and some random races.
If Ray gets his update done.
Fuck him.
I'm for 8%, so hopefully soon.
Right, okay. Well, this was meant to have been a very short sort of half-hour admin's announcement. So once again, apologies for the technical issues. And Mitch, if you remember, not long ago, you said it'd be interesting if the champions were limited to only having one particular car, and we did say at that time. Remember that? Remember you said that because we'd already planned this, and we knew that you were going to be having to drive this. That's actually reminded me one more thing. Although we have announced this now, if somebody new wins the Tomahawk Championship, the Grit, they will have to use the Maserati. So, Dave the Arp, if you win, you're in the Maserati. For anyone else, if they win it, you're in the Maserati. For everybody else, well, I suppose you could try the Maserati, but you can't use it in the league races.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go and crash into some people now. I think so. Thanks for tuning in, folks. Once again, apologies for the issues. And yeah, we'll see you on track soon.
To the bit.
Cheers.